full cast. Full is a big word. Full. Not the last book I have, the last book I've read. That's also not true. Yeah, choose from for her. Oh, words. Bilking her after biking her. He does not bike over her. He does not run her over with his bicycle. That is false. This intimidates me. This weight. These videos also become shame spirals for me. And it says, and it's... Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter in Converse, and welcome to my first book recommendation video for Booktrovert Bingo Spring Ahead. So I had some requests for some recommendations for some of the prompts that I came up with. So if you are new here, welcome, happy to have you, and you have no idea what Booktrovert Bingo is, no worries. I will link the video down below for you guys, but long story short, I created a 101 day reading challenge. So it goes from daylight savings until the last day of spring. And basically it is 25 prompts and a bingo board, and you just read whatever you want to read and fill as many prompts as you want to fill and shop your shelves and borrow some books, and hopefully you will just have a good time doing it. So I did this for the first time in the end of 2022 as a motivation to just like kick up my year-end reading. I had a great time with it. Luckily for me, you guys had a great time with it too. So we're doing it all over again. So a few prompts were layovers from last year, a bunch of them are new ones, and I wanted to kind of handpick some of the more challenging prompts / some of the ones you guys asked about the most and give you guys some recommendations. So when I went into this, and I won't do this explanation in every video, but just for the first one, I did not have specific books in mind. I more was trying to think of things that I love, things that reflected me, and then things that felt seasonal for spring and for daylight savings, hence the spring ahead. So I'm going to talk today about the prompt, which is Florals for Spring, groundbreaking, from the one and only Miranda Priestley from The Devil Wears Prada. So yes, when we think of spring, we think of flowers. And I am going to actually do this video in two parts. So my original idea was to read a book with an author's name or the title of the book as a flower. Now, in full honesty, I was obsessing about Daisy Jones and the Six at the time because it was coming out on Amazon Prime, and I absolutely loved the book, so I've already read it. And I was like, oh, Daisy, there's tons of books that are gonna fit for this. And then I was like starting to think about some books, and I was like, all right, that might actually be a little bit of a challenge. So you can also read books that have flowers on the cover. So for today, we are going to do book titles and author names that are flowers. And then stay tuned for part two, which, spoiler alert, I'm filming today, which will come up next, which will just be books with flowers on the cover. So I know for a fact, because I did do a bunch of research, that there's a whole bunch of books that could fit for this category, and a whole bunch of authors that could fit for this category. So I have pulled a bunch off of my shelf, and by a bunch I mean a handful, because it's actually more challenging than I thought it was going to be. And we're going to talk about some possible recommendations and then some possibilities for what I'm going to read. So in all my springy glory, I have a not black sweater on, I have pink nails going. This is me being seasonal. And I realize my sweater kind of matches the first book I want to talk about, which is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. So yes, her name is Flowers, and I'm considering that as a flower. This also might be the book that I read, because this is on my 23 and 23. I bought this last year, totally wanted to read it, failed myself miserably and never read it, and it's true crime podcasting, and it's past and present mysteries, and it's everything I love in a book. So Ashley Flowers is from the Crime Junkie podcast, if anybody listens to that, and this is her first book, and it says, you can't ever know for sure what happens behind closed doors. So in this case, we are in a small town in Indiana. In this case, in this book, we are in a small town in Indiana, and it says everyone from there remembers the infamous case of January Jacobs, who was discovered in a ditch hours after her family awoke to find her gone. Margot Davies was 6 at the time, the same age as January, and they were next door neighbors. In the 20 years since, Margot has grown up, moved away, and become a big city journalist, but she's always been haunted by the feeling that it could have been her. And the worst part is January's killer has never been brought to justice. So we fast forward 20 years later, Margot is returning home to take care of her uncle. He has been diagnosed with early onset dementia, and it says she feels like she's walked into a time capsule. The town is exactly how she remembers, and then the news breaks about 5-year-old Natalie Clark from the next town over, who's gone missing under circumstances eerily similar to January's. With all the old feelings rushing back, Margot vows to find Natalie and to solve January's murder once and for all. So there's more to the description than that, but I don't want to read it because I don't want to spoil anything. And I've just heard such great things about this, like twisty, believable characters. I have to believe that all of her work as a true crime podcaster is going to play heavily into this and bring some real reality to this story. So I'm very excited about it. This is one of my potential books. To jump back to what I said at the beginning, let's just do the daisies. So Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a fictional story about a 70s rock band who was the biggest band of all time, went on stage in Chicago, walked off stage, and never played together again. They've never spoken, they've never given an interview, they've never explained what happened until now. So this is told all through interviews. This is so well done. The audiobook is everything. If you guys are looking to get lost in an audiobook, do this one. Full cast. Full is a big word. Full cast. Jennifer Beals is Daisy Jones. She is incredible. And I loved this. It felt so authentic. It definitely, much like Evelyn Hugo, like felt like you were reading about a real band. And the inside track, Taylor Jenkins Reid did so much research and brought such authenticity to the story. And it has Fleetwood Mac vibes. It has Eagles vibes. She just like infused so many different real life bands and stories and rumors into creating Daisy Jones and the Six. And when this book came out, of course, I was like all the people who were Googling it and were dying to hear their music and just wanted to know everything about them. And now with the magic of Amazon Prime and Hello Sunshine, this is now a multi-part series on Amazon Prime. So as of the filming of this, the first 6 episodes are out. I'm totally hooked. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the music. I am just such a super fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I loved this. This is all the 70s vibes. It's complicated people. It's bad decisions. It is stardom. It is what it does to you. It is all the drugs and the alcohol and the rock and roll. And I just think it's so exquisitely done. Huge fan. Totally recommend this one. Another book that I have talked about more times than I can tell you guys, these videos also become shame spirals for me, is Daisy in Chains by Sharon Bolton. So I have so many Sharon Bolton books and I've read one of them and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. No excuses. So this one, which is also going to double for having flowers on the cover, so this might pop up really in the next video. This one is about a young, intelligent doctor, handsome and popular. He's also a convicted serial killer. He's a murderer of young women, all killed in brutal attacks. The evidence is irrefutable. But despite Hamish Wolf's conviction, he's always stuck to his story. He's innocent and he's been wrongly imprisoned. And now he wants someone to investigate and clear his name, and more importantly, to write his story. Enter reclusive and enigmatic Maggie Rose. Look at that. Her name is Rose. I feel like this one doubles down. She's a notorious defense attorney and best-selling true crime writer. Her specialty is getting convictions overturned. At first, she's reluctant to even acknowledge Hamish's request to meet, ignoring his letters and appeals from his family and supporters. But he's charismatic and persuasive, good-looking and intelligent, and eventually Maggie can't resist his allure. So she's drawn further into the case, and it starts to become clear that everyone, from the policeman who put Hamish away to Hamish's mother, everyone has a secret to keep. So this is a standalone. She does have a lot of series books, but this is a standalone book of hers. I've had this for a really long time, and you guys have told me 10 times over to read it. I'm not reading it because I don't want to. I'm just not good at follow through, but maybe this time. I feel like that's a song from Chicago, right? Okay, next up. Oh, Daisy Darker. I didn't pull it off the shelf, but Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I'll give it to you guys over here. That is an isolated mystery. So a lot of these books are going to fit multiple prompts, you guys. So if you guys want to double down. I read it last year. I loved it. I'm a huge Alice Feeney fan. So you get a family coming together for their Nana's 80th birthday. Nana lives on an island where when the tide comes in, the pathway to the island is inaccessible. So when the tide is in, you are isolated on the island. The whole family gets there. They have not been reunited in quite a bit. And the tide comes in and then somebody dies. And it is clear that it's obviously somebody on the island because there's no other way to get there. So we follow them sort of hour by hour through the night as they try to figure out what the heck is happening. So I'm a huge fan of Alice Feeney. I really enjoyed that novel. Depending on which edition of the book you get, that one also has flowers on the cover. I'll pop up the UK edition that has flowers, and it was just so well done. I'm a huge fan of hers. So now I have 3 books that I haven't read yet. The first one is a nonfiction book by Tara Schuster, and it's called Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies. I have talked about this one on here before. Still haven't read it yet. Me and my self-help books that I don't read to help myself. So this one is rituals. So buy yourself the lilies and other rituals to fix your life from someone who's been there. So I believe this is comedic, but not like a comedy self-help book. Like, I think she just infuses the book with humor. And it says it's an absorbing story of one young woman's path to reparent herself and become a ninja of self-love. Through simple daily rituals, Tara Schuster transformed her mind, body, and relationships. In this book, she reveals how we can all fake gratitude until we feel it, excavate our emotional wounds and heal with kindness, identify our own self-limiting beliefs and kick them to the curb, silence our inner frenemy, shield ourselves from self-criticism, carve out each morning to start our day empowered, inspired, and ready to rule. So I think kind of in the vein of You Are a Badass, which I totally loved. I think this is like kind of a similar vibe. This will also obviously work for the fact prompt. That's a fact, which is nonfiction. So this might be, I don't know, this might be a good one for me to dip into. One of the things I also love about these kinds of nonfiction books is you can dip in and out of them. So kind of like The Lazy Genius, you can come in and out. You don't have to read it cover to cover like you want to do with a thriller, but this also has flowers on the cover. So there you have it. And then I have 2 books from Karen Rose. So this is her newest book. This is Cold-Blooded Liar. This is the first in a new series set in San Diego. This was gifted to me by Berkeley. Thank you, Berkeley. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I have not read any of her books yet. We'll get to that in a minute. But this, like I said, this is a brand new series, and we are following a police detective, and then we are also, or a homicide detective to be specific. And then we are also following a psychologist named Sam who treats court-ordered clients. So one of Sam's clients, who is also a pathological liar, starts revealing plausible new details from a long unsolved serial murder case. So Sam feels compelled to anonymously report this to the SDPD, San Diego Police Department. So he anonymously calls the tip line because he wants to respect his client's confidentiality. I had to think of that word for half a second. And the cops are not super jazzed about it. So he winds up getting arrested for not disclosing all of the information. Not sure totally what goes down, but he winds up meeting Detective Kit McKittrick. She's the one who arrests him. Don't have the best first meeting. But Kit herself, it says, there's nothing that intrigues her more than a cold case. So when this anonymous caller leads her on a path to a wanted killer, she can't resist. And Sam, who is released, he doesn't spend the entire book in jail, goes home with both a newfound distaste for the police and a resolve, not unlike Kit's, to uncover the truth. So they repeatedly butt heads in their separate investigations, but are forced to work together to track down this serial killer who has haunted this town for a really long time. So it just sounds really great. I know people who have read it already and said great things about it, so I'm jazzed. And then the other Karen Rose book I have, she can write a book, you guys. She does not shy away from all the pages. This is like a 600-page book. So this is Say You're Sorry. I bought this a few years ago when I was hearing all the yay about it. And I honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this intimidates me. This weight size intimidates me, but not to the point that I'm gonna unhaul it. So this is her Sacramento series. And we get another serial killer on the loose, preying on vulnerable women. The only identifiable mark the killer leaves are letters, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, all carved into the torsos of his victim. Ew. Together they spell Sydney. Ugh. Here comes another flower. This is great. I have not read the inside of this book in probably 5 years, 4 years, whatever. When he grabs Daisy Dawson, he believes he has found his next victim, but despite her small stature, she fights back with an expertise that quickly frees her. Before fleeing the scene, Daisy also manages to grab what proves to be crucial evidence, a necklace from around the killer's neck. The necklace is more than a trivial item. It's a link to a cold case that Special Agent Gideon Reynolds has been tracking for 17 years. With Daisy's help, Gideon finally has the opportunity to get closer to the truth than ever before. But they might not get the chance as the serial killer has a new target, Gideon and Daisy. Is it weird that just reading that got me really, really jazzed to read this book? You guys, I have not read the blurb on this, I think since I got it. This came out in 2019. Why am I acting like this came out 10 years ago? Also, why do I feel like there's like 12 books in this series? I think I'm just confusing other books that Karen Rose wrote, and I'm thinking they're all part of this series. I have questions. I have questions. Her debut, Don't Tell, was released in 2003. I want to say, I'm going to look at the inside cover of this one because I know this one lists all her books, that I'm confusing my series here because that feels like something I would 1000% do because I'm me. Yes, so the Sacramento novels, there's 3 of them. So there's Say You're Sorry, Say No More, and Say Goodbye. She has a Baltimore series, she has a Cincinnati series, she has one New Orleans novel. So that would be a good one to read if you guys just want to be a one and done. And then again, this is a one and done. This is the first in a series. So Karen Rose, she's got choices. She's got choices. There's like over 10 books to choose from. Choose from for her. Words. And then the last book I have, I don't want to take it out of the pile. This is Lily White by Susan Isaacs. Not the last book I have, the last book I've read. That's also not true. Okay, anyway, Lily White by Susan Isaacs. Oh my goodness. So I read this 100 years ago. I have had this book forever. I really, really enjoyed it. We're following an attorney in that one. She is from like this very prominent family, I want to say. I'm making up what the book is about. It's right there. I just don't want to take it off the shelf because it's piled under all those books. Another negative side effect of how my books are stacked. Also, in a quick Goodreads search, there's an author named Lily White. So there's another author for you guys to read. I don't know anything about her. Okay, so here's the true story. Here's the true synopsis. Meet Lily White. She goes by the name Lee. She is a Long Island criminal defense attorney. She is smart, she is savvy, she is down to earth, and she can spot a phony the way her haughty mother can spot an Armani. Then enters handsome career con man Norman Torkelson, who is charged with strangling his latest mark after bilking her out of her life's savings. As astounding twists and reverses of the Torkelson case are revealed, so too is the riveting story behind Lee's life. Lily White is a brilliantly crafted story of con artists and true lovers, of treachery and devotion, and of one brave lawyer's triumphant fight for justice. So I just remember loving this book. And loving Lily/Lee, and I don't know. I'm seeing other people's reviews on Goodreads that are like, did not work for me, too dated, all of these other things. This book did come out a while ago. I read After All These Years by Susan Isaacs, which I really enjoyed, and I feel like I read some other books of hers. Maybe it was just of a time. I don't know. I really liked her though. I really liked this book. So maybe that's an option for you guys. So another one is Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. So I did read that after I read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager because Rosemary's Baby was his inspiration for that. So no, it is not a copycat book, but if you know Rosemary's Baby and you read Lock Every Door, you will see some things. And if, like me, you read Lock Every Door first and then read Rosemary's Baby, you will then, in retrospect, see some things. But it definitely, I feel like it's kind of cult classic. I was a little bit underwhelmed by it, but I also feel like in its time, I understand the revolutionary parts of it, but I took some issue with some character choices in it. I appreciate it for what it is. It didn't blow me away. Like I feel like I don't have the right appreciation for it that I should have, if that makes sense. But it was entertaining. I'm glad I read it. Again, kind of classic in a sense. So bad things abound at an Upper West Side apartment building. And there is a movie of it too, so that one would work for page to screen if you guys want to read the book and then watch it on TV. Daisy Jones obviously would also be the same. And then the next one I have is Darling Rose Gold by Stephanie Roble. So I haven't read this one yet. I've heard great things about it. I know it gets constantly recommended. So in this one, for the first 18 years of her life, Rose Gold Watts believed she was seriously ill. She was allergic to everything, used a wheelchair, and practically lived at the hospital. Neighbors did all they could, holding fundraisers, but no matter how many doctors, tests, or surgeries, no one could figure out what was wrong with Rose Gold. Turns out her mom, Patty Watts, was just a really good liar. After serving 5 years in prison, Patty begs her daughter to take her in. The entire community is shocked when Rose Gold says yes. And Rose Gold is no longer her weak little darling. And she's waited such a long time for her mother to come home. So there is some, I think, similarity / inspiration in this book from the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story. And there have been many true crime podcasts and many shows about that story. And I think there's obviously like a twist on it in that way. So again, I haven't read Rose Gold yet, but I know that there are some similarities to that and about Munchausen's syndrome and Munchausen's by proxy. So I'm definitely very intrigued by it, and I wanted to add it to the list because it's one I haven't read yet, and we've got Rose in the title. And then the next one I have is What Rose Forgot by Nevada Barr. So I do have an arc of this somewhere, and it's one of those books that I am definitely interested in still. This is by Nevada Barr. And in this one, we have Rose Dennis. She wakes up in a hospital gown, her brain in a fog, only to discover that she's been committed to an Alzheimer's unit in a nursing home. With no memory of how she ended up in this position, Rose is sure that something is very wrong. When she overhears one of the administrators saying about her that she's, quote, not making it through the week, Rose is convinced that if she's to survive, she has to get out of the nursing home. She avoids taking her medication, putting on a show for the aides, then stages her escape. The only problem is, how does she convince anyone that she's not actually demented? Her relatives were the ones to commit her. All the legal papers were drawn up. The authorities are on the side of the nursing home. And even she isn't sure she sounds completely sane. But any lingering doubt Rose herself might have is erased when a would-be killer shows up in her house in the middle of the night. Now Rose knows that someone is determined to get rid of her. Why am I not reading this book, you guys? With the help of her computer hacker recluse sister Marion, 13-year-old granddaughter Mel, and Mel's boyfriend Royal, Rose begins to gather her strength and fight back, to find out who is after her and to take back control of her own life. But someone out there is still determined to kill Rose, and they're holding all the cards. I got this at, I want to say, Thriller Fest in 2019, the last Thriller Fest I went to. I'm going to go back. And I've heard great things about it. I've never read a Nevada Barr book, which I also feel like is probably, please don't come for me. I know, like, I've just heard great things about her. She's written a cajillion books, right? Yeah, I'm looking at her Goodreads page. She's written a cajillion books. That's what we're going to call it. So anyway, I've got this one. And then the last book I have is one that I have toyed with reading, but I haven't done it yet. And it is The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. So this is a fictionalized version of an actual murder that took place in Los Angeles in 1947. And it's never been solved, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I watched the Chris Pine TNT series about it. And I know there's a movie about it with, I want to say, Scarlett Johansson, which I haven't haven't watched. But I've had a curiosity about this, which I know just like makes me dark and messed up. So it is a tortured, ravished body of a beautiful young woman is found in a vacant lot. The victim makes headlines as the Black Dahlia, and so begins the greatest manhunt in California history. So in the book by James Ellroy, we have caught up in the investigation are Bucky Bleichert and Lee Blanchard, warrant squad cops, friends and rivals in love with the same woman. But both are obsessed with the Dahlia. Driven by dark needs to know everything about her past, to capture her killer, to possess the woman, even in death. Their quest will take them on a hellish journey through the underbelly of post-war Hollywood to the core of the dead girl's twisted life, past the extremes of their own psyches into a region of total madness. I have not read any James Ellroy. I don't know if I will love this. I don't know. I've heard amazing things about it. And there's part of me that I'm like, have I just watched too much of like the fictionalized TV stuff? I don't know. But anyway, if you're looking for a book, this might be the one for you. And if you've read this book and you think it's worth reading, happy to hear that too. Because again, always looking for choices. So that is part one. That is flowers in the title and flowers as an author's name. Like I said, there are just endless choices, especially when you get into Rose and Lily, and whether you're looking at author names or I'm trying to think, what was the other one I saw? There were like so many series. Honestly, I did a Goodreads Google. I did a Google search, went to Goodreads, looked at a bunch of things. There's endless options. But if you are less interested in that kind of the prompt and you just want to find a book with flowers on the cover, stay tuned for my next video because that's where it's happening. So until then, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for playing. Thanks for being here. Definitely give your recommendations down below and we will chat it up there and we will chat it up in the next video. So take care, everybody. Bye.